What is this audiobook about? Hello, and thank you for purchasing this audiobook, and we are about to discover many new things that are happening in our daily life. We earn and spend money every single day, and in this audiobook, I will help you analyze how exactly we do that. This is the first audiobook of a series where I will be investigating the topic of money from a previously unexplored perspective. I am interested in this topic not only because money is an important part of our life, but also because I have many new insights into this topic. All money-related ideas I have faced in the past seemed a bit superficial and vague to me. I was quite incapable of reaching the core essence of the topic, and furthermore, they were limited in practical application. Some of the applications seemed dry, some of them appeared to be contradictory, and some were even too esoteric and unexplainable using common sense. I felt that a certain system to put everything in place was needed. I am a deep thinker, and I was seeking a transparent and solid system that would enable me to find answers for all money-related questions. Once I have a very clear understanding of how everything works, it is so much easier to make decisions. I studied and held seminars on the topic of money for many years, and had some paradigmatic breakthroughs in my thinking. There have been 3 key moments of insight which turned my understanding of money by 180 degrees. After these revelations, the whole concept of money all of a sudden seemed novel and fresh, and answers to seemingly impossible questions appeared right in front of me. Consequently, I have decided to record this audiobook and share with you my insight. I hope you enjoy it and learn many new things. Let's have a look at the main topics. I will tell you about what drives our purchasing decisions. Can we keep the decisions in check, or are they under the control of some other invisible forces? Haven't you felt that there is an uncontrollable part of you that makes the purchasing decision? If there is money in that wallet, it seems like that part decides that you all of a sudden need one thing or another. Of course, we become angry for our autonomous habits because they make our wallet lose weight rather than gain it. I will be speaking about consumption and how it has formed over the years, how material things have become our purpose in life, what things we are choosing and how, what material satisfaction we are looking for, what emotions are aroused when purchasing, and what we expect from purchases. How have these material things changed our social lives? Why do we prefer to have our own things and do not like borrowing from the neighbor? How is our inner self looking for harmony within this modern material world? I will also be speaking about the status we aim for as consumers and other things such as our true desires and what needs are fulfilled by consuming. I had many dual-sided thoughts about buying and consumption. I still remember the joy of buying ice cream, lemonade, and chewing gum when I was 10. Later, I spent money given to me on my birthday to buy a Walkman, a flashlight, a pocket knife, and audio cassettes. A few years after that, my mother started letting me choose and buy clothes and shoes for myself. I remember the fantastic feeling of walking around shops, evaluating and choosing things, and planning the purchases of the near future. This joy, unfortunately, did not last. At the age of about 16, I lost all excitement and desire to spend time shopping. Still, I continued to buy, but now only in a passive manner, purchasing only the things I could not do without. I became cautious with money because I already knew that, regardless of the price, the thing I purchased would have no effect on me. From that time on, I was constantly bothered by a question. Why do people buy? I was seeing others buying with excitement, rushing to sales, yet that was no longer bringing me any satisfaction. I wondered whether there was something wrong with me, or was there something wrong with them? Maybe some people like buying, while others do not, as a matter of taste. If there was a question, an answer had to follow. It was completely clear to me that we buy in order to satisfy our needs related to our daily functions and activities. We need something to eat, a place to live, transportation, clothing, hair care, health care, and banks, because those are the things that make our life so much more convenient. Nevertheless, I was always interested in the reasoning behind the purchases that a person makes after he has fulfilled all of these basic needs. He has 10 sweaters and still buys an 11th and does not even think about the fact that he used to have modest needs which turned into the never-ending accumulation of goods, requiring endless hours of work to be able to acquire an item that he won't even have time to enjoy. I intuitively sensed that something else, something much more powerful, was hiding beneath the act of purchasing. When the bottom line of basic needs is crossed, and we have everything we require to feel comfortable in a society, we start trying to blindly satisfy some other needs from deep within us. We buy more and more stuff, and it seems that it is never enough. Even the stuff we just bought somehow has not satisfied those unknown desires we had. We cannot identify our deeper needs, and that costs us a lot of money, because we can't find ways to satisfy those needs, and so spend money habitually. By understanding our core needs and how we try to satisfy them, you will save yourself a lot of time, energy, and of course, money. You will know yourself and feel more in control of what is happening in your wallet. The culture of consumption. Looking back in time, a few hundred years ago, we didn't have nearly as many things as we do now. But was human existence boring or less fulfilling than it is today? No. We were closer to nature, had a bigger range of emotions, and were much more involved within the community. Let's discuss something which is consumed as the greatest of luxury items, but only on weekends and only for several hours. Today it is even considered a rare commodity. Everything that is related to it has much higher value, although it was not that long ago that we could have enjoyed it every minute. What is the thing that has become so desirable? It is nature. We lived in it, we drew the rhythms of our life from it, we worshipped it, and we tried to copy everything that we saw in it. Religion was born out of nature. People worshipped the sun, the moon, the land, and the trees. They set religious events on days that were related to major changes in nature. Additionally, we created our social life based on nature. But time went by, and religion became independent, and its roots were forgotten. The human mind evolved, and we managed to become more independent from nature, besides learning how to control it. But we are still strongly influenced by nature every day. Believe it or not, quite a lot of our habitual buying is influenced by nature. How has a human's relationship with nature been changed by consumption? We started to count everything. If a tsunami or tornado destroys a city, we don't worship that almighty power. We start to calculate how much financial loss it brought. We read headlines like this: snowstorms hit London. Public transportation estimates £40 million repair bill. Money saturating into our relations? It has infiltrated a person's life into stages of social maturation, initiation, and the annual rhythm. Many acts which had been performed naturally by an individual for free for a long time now require some amount of money. Money and things become a more and more important part of our participation in social life. Want to express your opinion about something? Send a text message or call for a charge. If there is no money in your account, you have no chance to express an opinion or talk to the person you wanted to. You cannot organize your daughter's wedding with many guests if you don't have money. No money, no feast. No feast, no guests. No guests means poor social life. If you have been invited to a birthday party, you need money to buy a present, some flowers, or maybe wine. That instantly brings you an increase in spending, but you want to keep good relations with others and cut spending somewhere else in order to buy a present. Buying makes us more involved in life. If we don't buy, we feel like we lack relations with other people. Having money in your bank account doesn't create any fun or activities. When you buy something, you go to a shop, spend time picking the right item, and use it. It creates more activities, more to do, more people to be met, and vice versa. If your social life is not very active, not spending money leaves you without interactions and bored. Remember yourself going to a shopping mall just for the sake of a walk. Buying very often is just a pretext to leave the house and spend some time among other people. Buying helps make friends and get to know other people that you otherwise would never have met. Without money, you can't join your friends in most leisure activities. The more money began to entwine with people's lives, the more people started worrying about it. The more you want to do in life, the more money you have to have. Having no money means limiting activities. No money, no fuel. No fuel, no traveling. A few hundred years ago, people were mainly concerned with philosophical and religious questions. Who am I? What is my purpose on this earth? What is God? What is most important in life? How to get to heaven, and so on. At present, only one question takes precedence. How to get more money. We need money to keep up a certain lifestyle. The standards are becoming higher and higher with each passing day. It molds the work we do, how we communicate, and what goals we set for ourselves. Some people can get irritated when they feel that some lifestyle is being forcefully imposed upon them. Yet each civilization has an inherent lifestyle that is specific to it. Our positions and duties have been known since birth. Now that the old traditions have been forced out by the rational mind, we have stagnated in our further advancement because we have given way to the standards set forth by the newly created media. An image of a person each and every one of us should become is being molded by them. It means that a certain standard for an individual is always being promoted as an example for all the rest. As it goes, advertising, television, or other media alone cannot be accused of this, because this trait is common to humanity in general. In the most ancient of civilizations, members of a society worked collectively, until later, some families started specializing in specific fields. If you were born to a family of a shoemaker, your future occupation was clear from day one. You had one set of duties at one age, and a whole other set at a different age. Everything was pretty much set in stone, how to live, what to do, and when to do it. This is where folklore and myths came into being. Their purpose? To explain the world order and your place within it. Today this world order is communicated by the mass media, rather than by myths. Let's look at advertisements at the mall, and you will know what the modern family is supposed to look like. What it should wear, what things it should possess, where and how it should spend its money and free time. This imposed lifestyle is not a product of capitalism. Lifestyle was being imposed throughout all cultures. Once it was predestined that a son of a farmer will follow in his father's footsteps. Today, we have a choice to be whatever we want and lead whatever lives we wish. Nevertheless, for thousands of years, certain life standards have been created and are still being created. It's hard to evaluate these standards either positively or negatively. A person with weak boundaries can be greatly irritated by the imposed lifestyle. On the other hand, once a person is up to a standard, he feels much more comfortable within a society. Perceiving yourself as a part of the society rather than a separate entity, tension is greatly reduced because I am as good as everybody else. And that is proven with economic research. If a person gets lower than the average salary, he feels unappreciated and stressed. Once his salary reaches the average level, he feels accepted by society because he can live the same as most people live. If his salary rises above the average, he feels happy, and the happiness factor won't rise further with a greater increase in income. He feels safe and comfortable. That average might be very different in different parts of the world, but the rule is the same when we compare ourselves to people we live near. And if you are doing better than others around you, you consider yourself rich and successful. Today we live in a culture of consumption, and trying to go against it can be like swimming upstream. The surroundings don't work in your favor. It takes away a lot of your energy, while negative thoughts affect the quality of life. Thinking about how life is not fair is the worst thing you can do. It doesn't lead anywhere but to a bottomless pit of negative thoughts. Yes, that average level is rising every day, and if you felt rich yesterday, there is no guarantee that you will feel rich after a year or two. We want to enrich our being with various experiences to create a better quality of life. So focus your mind on getting those things you want with money, while still considering how you can get those things without money. There are literally thousands of opportunities to get goods and services for free. If you want to know more, look for books about simple living or downshifting. But I want to emphasize that each one of us knows many ways to save, but somehow we love spending money. We love to show others that we have some power. While money is hiding in our bank account, we cannot enjoy this power. What should we learn from this chapter? I recommend stopping the thinking that money is bad, that consumption is bad, that capitalism is wrong, and all conspiracy theories are right. Thinking about that takes your precious time and energy. If you want to be better with money, you have to figure out two things: how to spend money more wisely and how to make more money. The rest of this audiobook, we will talk about spending wisely and saving. So let's move on to the next chapter. Renewal. Leaves fall from the trees in autumn and sprout again in spring. The ice locks lakes, animals change their fur, and birds fly south for the winter, while we humans sit in the comfort of our homes and observe the changes in nature through the window. All we do is change our shoes or clothes, car tires in winter, and take an umbrella if it is raining outside. Oddly enough, nature's influence on us is not that far from what it once was. But this influence is felt indirectly. Nature makes us buy and consume stuff. Nature is constantly changing, and mankind feels the need to change as well. Renewal is one of the rituals we lost, having transitioned from an agricultural society to a city-like lifestyle. We are no longer intimately connected with nature. Nevertheless, our very core, which is formed during many thousands of years living in nature, is unable to adapt to city-oriented lifestyles so quickly. While a person is unable to internally reflect on the changes happening in nature, he tries to change his external appearance and surrounding material stuff to compensate for that. Customs and traditions originate from the changes happening in nature. As we choose to live in comfort, we lose our relationship with nature and equally with customs and traditions. These customs become more and more meaningless. Some customs are replaced by new customs, but they already have the consumption tune hidden inside. For example, in the United Kingdom during the Easter holidays, chocolate bunnies are very popular, but very few people know that it is a relatively new Easter custom. Businesses can't make money out of old Easter customs, but they can sell chocolate bunnies. A long time ago, we lived repetitive cycles of nature, and now we are repeating manufacturing cycles. We live in a capitalistic world, and our customs grow from these manufacturing cycles. We start attaching meaning to new customs because nature does not directly affect us. We attach meaning to what stimulates us and gets our attention. So now that nature doesn't stimulate us, as it did a few hundred years ago, we are stimulated by media and stuff that is produced and has to be sold. We live a new way of life, and we have to create new meanings for our life, such as attempting to make $1 million, becoming an internationally known celebrity, or traveling around the world. Those are new meanings that people didn't previously have. We lose touch with the traditions that had a specific meaning to our forefathers, as our life is so much different today. The meaning behind one or another festival can no longer be felt. Historically, the survival of human beings depended on nature and its changes. A drought meant a poor harvest and suffering from a lack of food throughout the rest of the year. Today, the survival of many depends on other factors, because if there was a drought in one region, the products could possibly be bought and brought from somewhere else. Only having enough money remains a problem. We can buy whatever we need when we have it. Life depends very little on nature, but very much on money. Having money helps us avoid discomfort caused by nature, yet it comes with discomforts of its own. Our forefathers praised gods for a good harvest. We praise our boss for an increase in salary. Our forefathers fought with nature for survival. We fight for popularity and status. Why we renew our wardrobe. The entire fashion business tries to repeat the rhythm of nature. New collections are presented at specific times of the year, and it does not matter that the collections could have been identical except for minor details. It will always be stressed that this particular garment is meant for autumn and this one for winter, or that another product will be in vogue next season. We badly need change when we live at a distance from ever-changing nature, and so we want to see changes in our surroundings. Wallpaper won't change color, won't drop in the autumn, and won't bloom with new colors in spring. That is why we redesign homes, change wallpaper, and buy new furniture. We see how weather and nature are changing, and we want to wear different clothes. We see the variety of stuff around us and want to have that variety of stuff in our closets. What we see around us, we try to bring to our personal life. What happens outside, we want to move to our small living space. We see road signs, and teenagers steal those signs to hang on their bedroom walls. No one likes to sit in one place all the time and be overwhelmed by routine work. Standing water starts to stink. Human beings want to be moved by various changes. Changes mean life to us. Nature is constantly changing. It is full of life, and so a human being always seeks change. We can no longer fully experience the changes in nature, so we use money to buy things, artificially substituting the change that is just outside our window. Nature changes from inside out, and when we consume, we change from outside in. Nature changes its essence, while the changes of a person are only on the surface. For example, we buy perfume and expect it to change our inner mood. For some time it might work, but sooner or later, we notice that we can spray on as much perfume as we want if we're in a bad mood, but it simply doesn't help. It is artificial change, since the human body and mind do not mature and change as a result. But if you are in a good mood, you don't need perfume to make a good impression on other people, because you are shining from the inside out. Just as in the computer we can press the reset button, we need various events in the course of which we could reset ourselves entirely. Our conscience wants some stimulus, and we spend money searching for risk and intensity. This especially applies to our big purchases. Buying is one of the ways to stimulate our brain, though some anxiety is experienced while buying. All of this because we know that we have to make money again. We traded our resources, and we have to replace them by gaining new ones. Buying habits. Nature has cycles. Human life is one big cycle with many small cycles within. Our social events are related to cycles of nature, the equinox, the shortest day and shortest night, and marking of the seasons. The arrival of winter is usually marked by a certain purchase. The same thing happens in spring. Nature has its own calendar, and human beings have a calendar of their purchases, where they enter the dates of social and personal lives, and religious and other celebrations, birthdays, name days, anniversaries, Christmas, the New Year. We have to mark a finished period of our personal lives when we revise our achievements, evaluate, and come to a full stop of some kind before starting something new. It can be a period of wearing jeans until they are worn out, a period of the color purple being in fashion, a period of being in a relationship with somebody, a period for paying a loan, a period living in a certain town, a period of a certain job. Certain periods have to be completed in order to start new ones. If you are promoted, you get a new office and want to celebrate, as you feel like you finished something and started something new. When you move from a one-room flat to a three-room flat instead, you want to throw a housewarming party as a mark of a certain change and a new beginning of some sort. Or it might be that you are moving to the suburbs of the city and it means a huge breakthrough for you. One life ended, another started. The cycles lead us to buying habits. We buy cakes, presents, and the presents are usually things we do not need, but still have to buy because there is an occasion. Formal clothes which live in the closet. We buy alcohol to celebrate, buy postcards, Christmas trees, and so on and so forth. These purchases do nothing to create something new in our lives. They just support a habit and the particular lifestyle we are used to. Also, each year you spend some amount of money for various flowers. What changes does that bring to your life? Probably none at all. We just follow certain standards set by society and get some emotional gratification, but get no real additional value to our lives in exchange. It is important to realize how much money we spend on the continuance of traditions and the celebration of natural cycles. Each year, for certain occasions, we buy different things. Following traditions supplies some sort of emotional gratification, but you must understand that traditions do not bring anything new to your life. I'm not suggesting that you stop following traditions, but this could be an area where you can save some money without much detriment to your quality of life. You could possibly use that money you save to do something you've never done or see something you've never seen. Think about it. You only live once. Why repeat the same routine year after year and only dream of doing something new, something different? Don't dream about it. Do it, because you can always go back to traditions. Think about what you buy habitually and what would happen if you skipped those purchases. What inner objections would come up? Why are those inner objections stronger than your wish to save money or to handle it differently? Fashion, like many things in life, comes and goes. We remember life not only by the years or events that took place, but also by what was fashionable. The fads for one thing or another came and went, and that was considered some kind of cycle. We keep getting new cell phones, cars, computers, not because the old one all of a sudden stopped working, but because they are no longer fashionable. The stock prices in the market rise and fall like the tide in the ocean. The new TV or theater season starts. Women keep buying new shoes because the sales also keep repeating regularly. We used to have seasons of the year. Now we have the sales of the year. Nature is matter that is constantly changing, renewing itself, and that is why we also want to change and renew the matter that surrounds us. We make this change by looking for new designs, especially when it comes to cars, furniture, clothes, home appliances, and all other things that can look modern and fashionable. For certain products, the calendar cycles guarantee stable income, because the sales for wine, chocolate, and lingerie are much higher than any other day. The same goes for school supplies at the end of the summer and for Christmas trees in mid-December. Many businesses want to link their products and services with some holidays or memorable dates because it will guarantee them regular sales of those products and services. We also have the need to mark the significant events in our life. We do so by buying alcohol, presents, and other things because those events do not happen every day. It can be a promotion at work, getting your driver's license or school or university diploma, a wedding, or a baptism. The more significant event is to a person, the more it is celebrated. The more you want to celebrate something, the more money you are going to spend. To end some sort of a stage in your life and begin a new one, we need to somehow find a place to place the period. There has to be some point where you can stop, look back, and say that you have achieved something and move on to a new goal. and usually the start and finish of those periods are marked with some kind of purchases. Some people evaluate a period in their life by how much money they made or how far they made it in their career and their title at work. Others by the car they drive, a book they wrote, changes they made in their diet, or by the new wife and kids. When people talk, we notice the key words in their speech. There was a time when I used to make that much money. There was a time when I used to drive this car. There was a time when I used to party every weekend, but now I work out. I remember when I used to eat meat. We need to renew ourselves, forget what was old, and in a way, start a new life by changing and molding our surroundings. Sometimes that desire to change is so strong that we start to buy and replace even the good and useful things. We buy a new car, convincing ourselves that the new one will be more economical and more functional than the old. But what we really want is to experience some kind of transformation. We buy fashionable things, finding 100 justifications for that purchase, while our inner voice tells us, I see all the changes around me, and I want those changes as well. So if I buy something, I may get that feeling that my life somehow changed as well. The most important thing is to realize that there are many ways to experience change, even without consuming. Even without buying something, you will be able to remember a period of your life. Just because you felt good, or were busy making something, or working on something, traveling, or something else interesting was happening in your life. Stuff can make your life more comfortable, but it only makes your life happier for a few days, maybe weeks. If you want comfort, continue to buy things, but if you want happiness, you will have to seek it elsewhere. Designer jeans knockoff. I once read an article about how a company was fined for selling designer brand knockoffs. The company is not the point. The point is being the buyer who paid good money, loves the famous brand, often wears it because he is so satisfied with the purchase and truly believes that he bought a quality product. Then he finds out that it's a fake, a knockoff. All of a sudden, this person feels disappointed, cheated. Now he feels ashamed wearing this piece of clothing. Isn't that a paradox? The item did not change one bit, but in the blink of an eye, everything changed. This product, once a favorite piece of clothing, all of a sudden finds its place at the back of the closet. Why? Because inside our heads, the reputation of that product was ruined. That just explains the true reason why we bought this product, for its status and reputation. When we found out that in fact that item does not have a reputation and status, it lost its value. When buying a designer pair of jeans, you're buying the energy the crew put into making those jeans. They cost 5 times more, but when wearing them, you may feel 5 times better, feel more confident. This is a very superficial confidence, but a superficial one is still better than none. When you have no other means of satisfaction in life, jeans might be that one thing that you can grab onto. These are the positive emotions that may energize you, make you happier, or in another way add to your quality of life. Your friends and colleagues may admire and be jealous of your new jeans. These are all emotions that you can store and use to change your boring everyday existence. In this modern age, we lack more and more emotions, so we are willing to pay a pretty price in order to bring out those positive feelings. Rationally, we avoid buying products with a bad reputation so they would not ruin ours. It's funny how a regular person essentially doesn't have a reputation to ruin, but he just doesn't want to deny that illusion he has created of himself. That's why he wants to continue purchasing the products with the higher reputation. In his own mind, this person believes that a person with a reputation like his is in no place to buy products without a reputation. Well, that is a very human trait. We think better about ourselves than we are. That is why some people give up on consuming. They downshift, because they see this imbalance and that people with high-status brands sometimes don't have the reputation they imagine they have, that sometimes it is just a fake projection of ego. As someone said, we buy stuff we don't need for money we don't have to make an impression for people we don't know. And what to do for those who don't want to make an impression? Somehow, even they are affected by status and reputation, even if they try to ignore it. We buy status and reputation. Cheap products are unattractive due to this lack of a reputation. We don't like to talk about cheap things because they do not increase our reputation. They don't have interesting stories behind them, just like a boring, gray person. No one is eager to talk to this person. No extra effort or energy was put into making this product. It was most likely made on a conveyor line and does not have any special attributes or positive reviews. Usually, the cheap product works almost as well as the expensive one, but regardless of this functionality, we are reluctant to buy it. Think of a simple lamp. Will a lamp you bought for $30 light up the room any differently than a lamp for $300? Likely not. You just paid 10 times the price for the design, the fashion, and likely for how the lamp adds to your interior, or maybe you will just feel uncomfortable when your guests see the $30 lamp in your room. When buying a reputation, we in a way connect to the people who created this product, because now their reputation affects ours. We want to associate with the best. We want to wear designer jeans and to be proud of a relationship with someone famous. Yes, we want to be surrounded by the best, but how much effort do we put forth to become the best ourselves? When we don't work with or have any other relationship with the best of the best, we cling to the superficial consumption of goods that the best have created. You may not know the designer in person, but you can buy his jeans and, by doing so, feel like you almost know the guy. You don't need to send fan mail or try to meet him. You can simply go to the store, buy the jeans, and have a piece of that man's passion, talent, and reputation. When someone becomes famous and puts out a recipe book, we buy it like a piece of that person's success. The actual recipes are just a pretext and the logical explanation of why you bought the book. But I can guarantee you that you will maybe make at best a few dishes from the whole book. All because what you really bought is a piece of success and reputation. Why? Well, maybe because we buy things that we are really lacking ourselves. You don't buy toys when you don't have kids, no matter how cute the toys are. So we never buy things that do not satisfy some sort of need within us. The internet is full of recipes, but for some reason you bought a book. So if we buy success and reputation, might it be that we lack them? When people lack practical intellect, they have a lot of illusions. Let's say someone has become the manager of a company, but his paycheck isn't very big and the company itself is quite small, around 10 people. For the sake of example, let's say that the person has the illusion that a manager is supposed to be a great and respected person. Just the word, manager, already sounds great. This person starts consuming things that are beyond his pay, but that's okay. He's the manager. He'll soon make more money, the second illusion, and being an emotional person, he is not able to objectively evaluate his performance and create added value. He thinks that he does so much, but gets paid so little. This unfairness causes him to always be tense, because in his illusion, the manager has to make enough to build a nice house, to vacation in exotic places, and to drive a nice car. He doesn't realize that in some huge corporation, some middle manager with his professional competencies exceeds him by a mile. All of this can be sorted out by reality and practical intellect. You should consume things not because of what your image or your position at work is, but in accordance with your real results. We have a natural mechanism inside that always tries to subconsciously compensate for our shortcomings and to improve how we see ourselves. We create a self-fulfilling illusion that we are 3 times better than we really are, and due to this illusion, we overconsume by buying more and paying more. This quickly empties our wallets, and all of a sudden, we do not have enough money for different expenditures, making our existence very routine. We no longer have the cash to do something new, something interesting, to travel, to experience some kind of adventure. No, we spend everything on our mortgage, on gas for our leased luxury SUV, on some household appliance, a piece of clothing, some food, maybe a pint of beer at the bar, and that's it. All the money is gone, and with none left for other needs. So we end up living in a routine, doing something over and over again, year after year. For most, it will take a long time to digest this information and to admit the fact that we buy reputation. And we do it because we lack it ourselves. That is the main answer to that question. Reputation is not something that grows easily, so we try to plug those holes in our lives by buying other people's reputation in order to feel better ourselves. When we have nothing to show our friends that came to visit us at home, we can at least show them the recipe book, the designer jeans, or our brand new gadgets. All of a sudden, we get a topic for conversation, and we get some sort of reputation forming in our guests' eyes. So I just want to reiterate the most important parts of this section. You bought the expensive jeans because you really wanted them. Why you wanted them, you had no clue, but you really, really wanted them and came up with the few justifications why you need them. If you came to realize that those jeans are knockoffs, there's a good chance they will lose all value you have associated with them, and they will find themselves at the back of the closet with the old jeans because they don't have the reputation anymore. Of course, we won't tell ourselves that we only wanted to increase our reputation by buying them, because if this were the case, we would not be purchasing them at all. You surely would say that you just tried to buy a high-quality product and you deeply believe this. But we buy reputation, not quality. Quality is just justification for the rational mind. Reputation is for your emotional side. Normally, a person doesn't buy what he doesn't need. Like I mentioned before, you won't be buying toys, no matter how nice they are, if you don't have kids to buy them for. A person doesn't buy a lawnmower if he doesn't have a lawn to mow. So if someone is buying reputation, they have a reason for it, as we wouldn't buy reputation if we didn't need it. The cycle of life has become a straight line. We have become accustomed to the linear format of time and life. This means that we think that life moves in a straight line, and of course we hope it moves at an upward angle. Onward, forward, and up, 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 we hope for never-ending growth. We think that the stairs of a career only go up, but in real life, we don't only take the stairs up. Let's not forget that only a few hundred years ago, we lived in cycles according to nature. Consciousness does not evolve as quickly as does science and other feats of society, thanks to which we live the modern lifestyle today. Each year we have something new, something improved, which previous civilizations did not have. We have got used to things getting more and more improvements to improve the comfort of our everyday lives. We strive to adjust to changes around us and to purchase the latest fashions. It is sad to see parents buying their kids the top-of-the-line computer with many new features which won't even get used by the child. For that kid and the whole family's needs, a computer half as powerful and with half the features would suffice. But since the market offers them the fancy features, they believe that they may need them. Rarely do the mass of buyers think of how much each feature will actually be useful. How many functions does your phone have, and how many do you actually use? Surely you don't use most of them, and even if you do, there is a good chance that they do not have a value equal to what you paid for the phone. Since advancements in technology do not depend on our wants and needs, we are affected by them in the end. Why am I bringing this up? I want you to use your money to make your dreams come true, rather than gathering and purchasing things that within a year will be useless to you. Many people spend money as if they were on autopilot and controlled by this autopilot. Think of your spending that is directly linked to the cycles I've mentioned, and imagine that you were to spend this money on other things, such as travel, adventures, self-advancement, or something else that you have long desired to do. Routinely spending your money will not create anything new, but for human beings, is very hard to change habits, and money-spending habits are not an exception. Why is it worth changing habits? Because for this same cash, you can get much more in return. You do not always need to make more money. If you can spend creatively and effectively, there is a good chance you can have a higher quality of life than a person with more money that spends on autopilot. I once heard of a person who is quite wealthy and remodels his home twice a year and has been doing so for close to 15 years. Obviously, you start wondering why. This is the only area in which this person has expertise. It is his only outlet, and since he is not able to find other worthwhile activities for himself, he spends tons of money on remodeling. Does this add to the quality of his life? Not really. It is just a way to pass time for a person who is not able to find something more gratifying. Having a lot of money does not necessarily mean that he is able to experience something new. It is most likely that this person just continues to buy as he did before he was rich. Just now, he pays more for the same things. If you have a favorite vacation spot, you will continue to visit it year after year. But with the increase in budget, you may stop staying at the 3-star hotel and move on to the 5-star one. If you have gone to visit your parents on Christmas Eve every year, no matter how large your bank account, you will continue to do so. The only difference being that you will buy more elaborate and expensive presents. If you liked a certain dish, with money you will not stop eating it, but you may start eating it more often. But is this really a benefit? If you work out, then with more money you may attend a fancier gym, but will that make your muscles bigger? Emotions always win over intellect. If we want to fully understand human beings, we need to analyze emotions. A feeling of insecurity is one of the most popular emotions that affects many of our decisions. We experience various emotional undertones as the resistance to change habits or leave the comfort zone and fear of starting something new and something better. There is less space for the intellect when emotion is awakened because there is always a balance between emotions and intellect. The more emotion is alive, the less space intellect has to function, and vice versa. If emotions calm down, intellect can function better and make better decisions. It is like a computer. If one huge program overloads the processor and operating memory, all other programs get stuck. If emotions overload us, our intellect gets stuck. Do you remember yourself shouting at your spouse and regretting it the next day? At that moment, emotion raised, and intellect was not able to see the situation logically. The next day, when emotion was gone, you were able to analyze the situation and see it through a rational perspective. The same might happen with purchases. Our wish to have something might rise instantly. We buy stuff, but after some day we regret doing that because we understand that we didn't need that stuff so badly. Now for a few words about feeling safe. The intensity of the safety emotion depends on the physical maturity of a person. The emotion is lower when a person is more mature, a true life model. When an ordinary family buys more food in the shop than they need, they throw some of the food in the bin later. I remember it was very important to have a full fridge of food in our family. Hourly snacking was a common thing in those days. Subconsciously, the mind thinks, I have to eat now, as much as I can, because I don't know if their fridge will be full tomorrow. However, when I was growing up and developing my emotional intellect, I noticed that the fridge did not impress me anymore. It could be empty, and it would not stress me. I can go to the shop or eat in the coffee bar. When the emotional intellect developed, then various habits that were based on emotions had gone. The desire to have stuff went down when I began to feel bigger control of my emotions and emotional stability. So it was the first time I came to a very well-known truth that we buy because of emotions. And not only because we buy and expect good emotions, but we buy because we want to avoid negative emotions as well. Emotions push us to act irrationally. We buy what we don't need at all. We buy something that makes us feel sick and unhealthy, and we could think of many more examples of irrational behavior, but we can't stop it because the emotion drives that decision. Intellect might understand that it is not healthy and I should not buy it, but that purchase generates some kind of emotional satisfaction, and emotion always wins over intellect. Psychologists never advise us to buy stuff. We tend to think that having stuff can help us feel good and experience fullness and will sort out our problems, so it is not very hard to become obsessed with having lots of stuff. Let's create and invent all sorts of gadgets and trinkets and convince people to buy them. Well, convincing is not even required. If we know that some kind of new stuff exists, it is enough for us to want to get it and use it. That is simply how our mind works. We are curious. We had 90% less things a few hundred years ago, so it is evident that we could manage to live without 90% of the stuff that we have today. Of course, life would be much harder and inconvenient, but when we say that we desperately need something, it really may not be as desperate as we think. Intellect is not needed for owning and accumulating things. Accumulation of stuff can be a purpose in life for the majority of people, and they will be happy to have such a purpose in life because they can't think of anything better. Concentrating on material stuff, producing and trading, is a great spur for an increase in the economy. Some people create, some produce, some sell, and others buy. Everybody is happy because they have something to do and feel needed. Yet this market society has advantages and disadvantages. We are working, coming up with various ideas, and improving the quality of our material life. The disadvantage is that we often don't keep a healthy balance and start to overconsume things that are unnecessary, and, with that focus on material issues, we are not able to solve other social issues such as suicide, alcoholism, drugs, crime, corruption, and so on. No theory in psychology refers to accumulating stuff as the main goal for people. In modern times, we are very interested in psychology, but it is strange that nobody has noticed this. Neither philosophers nor psychologists nor the church ever claimed that buying and owning stuff will make our life better. And yet we end up doing quite the opposite. I understand that we have to satisfy needs like food, housing, transportation, raising children, and the like. However, in Western societies, these requirements are already met, but we are further working, buying, and buying some more. It is like an uncontrollable train we see that is going the wrong direction, but we cannot change it. Capitalism doesn't want to acknowledge that usage and possession create very few surplus values for our inner life. Have you ever heard that any psychologist suggested for people to have more stuff and to earn more money, to work an additional 4 hours per day, and to spend everything and even borrow some money? Yet we behave just like that. Politicians and economists don't listen to psychological research and findings because it is not handy for them. Politicians and economists have nothing to suggest for people besides usage, production, and increasing GDP. The fact that people could direct their creative and intellectual faculties somewhere else is not the object of their research. So once again, I want to emphasize that philosophers, psychologists, and the church never said that owning and accumulating stuff will make us better and more happy, but somehow politicians and economists manage to make it our primary goal. So we become richer and have more stuff, but do we become better human beings and feel happier? How does insecurity affect buying? The inner need to collect and accumulate has many causes, and one of them is our insecurity. We do not know what the future holds in store for us. We all feel some amount of anxiety because of this uncertainty. Rich people worry about the future just like everybody else. Money can temporarily decrease, but not eliminate this anxiety. This is a very individual matter, because a person who earns a normal income can feel much more inner comfort and safety because emotions are not measured with money than someone else who makes 10 times more but has emotional instability. Emotions usually do not correlate with an amount of money. I mean that the same amount of money for some people might reduce anxiety, while for some, it won't. There might be a millionaire who can't sleep at night because he's afraid of what the future will bring him, and there might be someone who has nothing but isn't afraid of tomorrow at all. Day after day we see losses. People get sick and lose their health. Houses are robbed. Money is inflated. And storms take off the roofs or a fire destroys all that was saved for many years. We can lose our wealth very quickly, and in order to avoid it, we try to store as much as we can. We buy home, life, and health insurance to feel safer. Our feelings of safety depend largely on our childhood. If a child got less attention and love, his need for feeling safe is much higher. Unfortunately, money won't bring safety. Money only partly affects our emotional life. If I am afraid of the dentist, no matter how rich I am still afraid. Money won't reduce this fear. Money can reduce your insecurity, but won't sort out the problem. As soon as you lose the money, the problem will come back to the size it used to be. Usually, we are not afraid of losing money. We are afraid of problems coming back in life. Because while we had money, it helped us buy other people's services. When we have money, we can forget our inner fears or emotional issues, such as the lack of knowledge or lack of decision-making. But as soon as we spend all the money, all the problems that we had come back, and we have to start all over again. Problems are very different, but in terms of money, I can divide them into 3 categories. Problems that I can solve myself, problems that need my effort and other people's help, and problems that can be solved only by other people. Money helps buy other people's time and service, but I still have problems that I have to solve myself, and no matter how much money I have to put in the effort. For example, I am overweight and that requires my own effort and some other people's help. Yes, I can hire the best doctor, nutrition specialist, and personal trainer, but I will have to put much effort in myself. Otherwise, I won't solve it no matter how much money I have. The conclusion is simple and very well known. You put more effort and constantly ask yourself these questions. What blocks my productivity? How can I do more? Why haven't I reached my goals? If you continue to review your obstacles and spend some time looking for solutions of how to overcome them, you will find the answers. Most of our problems are ones that we can solve ourselves, but because we are lazy, we hire someone else. We put money in our bank account like animals save up food for the winter. I always tried to understand why we tend to accumulate stuff when we know that one day we will leave this world and everything will be lost. You might say it's because we want to leave something for our kids, yet there are people who don't have children and they are addicted to buying things, and there are people who have stuff but leave it for various organizations and not for their children in their will. I also have kids and don't feel any need to accumulate stuff. I think our conscious mind just rationalizes the emotion. There is no logic, and the golden rule is, when you don't understand logic, look for emotions. We can explain the strange and illogical behavior of people when emotions are analyzed. There are obvious exceptions, where collecting stuff is not typical for all people and cultures. I have never read about Indians working long hours for 30 years so that they could buy nice wigwams. Some groups of people were nomadic and did not save any wealth. To them, it is not important to have property in a settled community. The welfare of the people depends on the quantity and quality of the land. We are no longer directly dependent on the land, but the wish to have and to own property has persisted. Today, your wealth depends on your knowledge, skills, economic conditions in the country you live in, your health, and other immaterial factors. Our consciousness yearns for the material and tangible in the modern day, where everything is automated and computerized. Consciousness wants some part of the realistic world to belong to you. It doesn't care that you will overpay for this realistic part. Our desire to have our own apartment or house is one of the strongest desires we have. People have always sought total stability. However, stability is only an illusion. People invest in real estate or gold and expect it to increase in value. But who knows? It might be that after a year or two, substitutes for gold will be invented and the demand for gold will drop dramatically. These changes can happen very rapidly. This becomes acute in the communication age. Ideas have the possibility of being realized instantly. Such being the case, there is less and less stability because everything changes. The subconscious thinks that a person has to gather money and wealth, which helps ensure survival in later years. This idea comforts at present and relieves anxiety. Also, we are afraid of death and we want to delay it as much as possible and believe that by accumulating stuff, we can in a way postpone the inevitable. We feel anxiety when we think about how uncertain the future is, so we instinctively start preparing for the unknown. We buy because of anxiety. If a person makes big decisions, his anxiety is higher. He doesn't want irritating details to disturb his life, such as a car that breaks down a lot, uncomfortable shoes, or an unreliable cell phone which dies in the middle of a conversation. Fixing this stuff takes his precious time and annoys him, so he would rather pay more and get stress-free stuff or service because he has so many things to do that he doesn't want to worry about mistakes other people make. He would rather pay more but avoid stress. Also, he would rather pay more today to have more safety today or tomorrow. Is quality of life related to money? People have the illusion that if they have 10 times more money, their life will be 10 times better. But when really thinking about the ratio of money to quality of life, it rarely changes 1 to 1. If you got 10 times more money, it may be that your life only gets 2 times better. So the ratio is 10 to 2. How unfair! But maybe it is possible to make your life 2 times better with the money you have on hand today. Then the ratio becomes 1 to 2. If you see a rich man leading an interesting life, there is a good chance his life was just as interesting before he became rich. The most important thing is to understand that we have certain habits of spending and a certain lifestyle. So there is a good chance that with a thicker wallet, we will continue our lifestyle but just pay more for it. The big question is whether we are ever able to turn off the autopilot that we use to spend money that I mentioned. Because this autopilot is a psychological function, not so easily turned off with an increase in wealth. You can't press a button and go into manual control just like that. You will have to do quite a bit of self-analysis. There isn't much happiness living on autopilot. If you have money and you spend it on autopilot, it is not very satisfying. This is why people sometimes overspend money, buying the same stuff even if they don't want it. They don't get satisfaction, but as they cannot figure out how to get satisfaction without their automatic actions, they don't know what else to do. Humans get a lot of satisfaction from being in control. When you get the feeling that you are able to control yourself, it will give you internal strength. It is much better than being disappointed with yourself again and again after giving in to the buying mania. In the sales theories, there is even a term known as buyer's remorse, describing that feeling when we buy something that we do not need. That feeling comes from us not being able to control our emotions and from not having clarity in our thinking process. We are not necessarily unhappy with the product, but we're disappointed and remorseful because of our inability to control ourselves and stop in time before buying something that is not necessary. We are not unhappy with a product or the seller, but with ourselves for not having the psychological barriers and for spending the money without much gratification. It is also important to recognize the impact that the cycles have on how we value different aspects of life. Let's say you value your life by your paycheck, and since it has not changed in 3 years, you may start to think that nothing in your life has changed. Even though in those 3 years, tons of things have changed, things that may have happened that people may even be jealous of you for, but since you are looking at life through the prism of your paycheck, nothing changed. Maybe you realize something about yourself or the world. Maybe something else happened that you can't see with the naked eye. Just because your life is not on that straight line going upwards, you may start feeling guilty, unsatisfied with yourself or others, and you will be in a rush or become angry. You may get sick with many negative emotions, but you must realize that no one else but we ourselves have created these illnesses. We are the ones that change the life cycle into a straight line. We constantly ask ourselves, why didn't I reach a higher point? Or why am I rising so slowly? Lots of our purchases are in a way checkpoints along this straight line upwards. This is why every few years we buy a new, better watch. Though the old one still works just fine, we buy a better one to mark the point on the graph. Our hopes and dreams keep getting bigger, and the requirements for them become more and more elaborate. But when we are waiting for spring, do we really expect it to be better and more perfect than the last one? When looking at the sun, do we expect it to shine brighter each day? The main idea is not to evaluate life by one aspect or another, because there are many different things in life that make it what it is. Don't judge yourself by one criterion, the size of your paycheck. Also, before making a purchase, try to think if this is not one of those checkpoints along that fictional straight line of life I mentioned. Yes, we like to scale that imaginary mountain, going higher and higher above other people, because we want to be among the best. Why do we accumulate stuff? I always tried to understand why we tend to accumulate stuff when we know that one day we will leave this world and everything will be lost. You might say because we want to leave something for our kids, but there are people who don't have children and they are addicted to buying stuff. There are people who leave it for various organizations and not for their kids in their will. I also have kids and don't feel any need to accumulate stuff. I think our conscious mind just rationalizes the emotion. There is no logic, and the golden rule is, if you don't understand logic, look for emotions. We can explain the strange and illogical behavior of people when emotions are analyzed. There are obvious exceptions, and collecting stuff is not typical for all people and cultures. Some cultures were nomadic and did not save up any wealth. It is important to have property in the settled community. The welfare of the people depended on the quantity and quality of the land. We are not now directly dependent on the land, but the wish to have our own property has persisted. The value of stuff is what we all agree on. If we change our opinion that now gold doesn't have any value and something else has value, it will. Value is created in the human mind. If the mind changes, value changes. The subconscious thinks that a person has to gather money and wealth, which help to survive in later years. This idea comforts at present and relieves the anxiety. We feel anxiety when we think about the future, and one of the ways to reduce this anxiety is to accumulate stuff. We have the thinking of scarcity rooted in our subconscious, and no matter how much we have, we want to have more. Then when we have more than we need, a very interesting thing happens, which reveals our emotional maturity. We have a belief that having more stuff will make our life better, but in fact, the more stuff people have, the more tension it creates, and if we lack emotional maturity, we start arguing with each other because of this stuff. When stuff appears, interpersonal conflicts appear as well. More about this in our next chapter. Sharing stuff. We have some beliefs that become the truths of our lives, and we don't ask ourselves if this truth that I believe is a real truth. Sometimes I encounter a belief that it is better to have my own. It is better to have my own is often said when people have to use communal property and a dispute starts boiling up over it. For example, let's imagine that two families need to rent a house. The house is spacious enough for everyone. Everyone could live happily ever after. But very soon, various emotions start to appear and egos arise, which spoils the relations. First, the feeling of living together in peace disappears. So people try to keep their private space and don't feel comfortable when forced together for too long. They keep to themselves their personal belongings, such as a lawnmower or barbecue. They would rather buy their own stuff than use something communal. So where does the real problem hide? We don't know how to maintain long-term relations. It is hard for us to agree on something because very often emotions take over. We become jealous, we become irritated, we don't want such relations that are bound to communal usage of something, and we buy our own. Not because it will bring better quality to our lives, but because it will help us avoid unpleasant emotions while sharing property. Just imagine that 10 families could buy a personal watercraft and use it in common. They could indulge in leisure time together. They could easily upscale the quality of their lives with little expense. However, there will be disagreements about using it. One family will reserve it for a weekend, and another will claim that they have plans too. Someone will break something and won't fix it, and so on. Does amount of money condition quality of life? If those families get along with each other, they could do everything with less money. They could increase the quality of their lives by 2, 5, or even 10 times and avoid huge expense. All they have to do is learn to communicate and to control emotions so that it would not ruin relationships. Instead of having a gym in the house, it might be better to share one gym among 5 families. 5 times less money needed, and people have the ability to chat with real people while working out, instead of watching TV. But when we don't find ways of communicating with each other, we have to work hard to buy everything on our own. We want to prove that we are able to buy our own stuff. It is not cool to share stuff, and not cool is not an intellectual conclusion, it is an emotional conclusion. I do not like DVD boxes in the rental center, because they are dirty and worn out. I will buy and have my own DVD. I do not like to ask so often for my older brother's bike, so I will save up money and have my own bike. I do not like the smells and crowds on public transport, so I will go to work by car. So we pay more in order to avoid negative emotions. But during the last few decades, very effective tools for eliminating negative emotions have been created. It means that if I work on my emotions with any of those tools, I will be able to control them. So the main reason why I wanted to have my own is gone. I can share stuff with people and feel absolutely okay with it. I can use public transport. It might be crowded, but I feel okay with it. Other people don't annoy me anymore. I don't want to pay more for better service during dinner because I am okay with the service I get. I am emotionally mature, and other people's service doesn't affect my mood. I just feel okay no matter how they do their job. The service might not be perfect, but I am okay with it because I feel emotionally mature. The need to own stuff is emotional. A simple example. You have rented out a country house near a lake for a week. A similar country house stands nearby, and its owner is on holiday there. He owns something that you don't. That makes you feel a bit inferior. But is the air you breathe different from the air the neighbor breathes? Do you have a different landscape? Do you have different activities? Your holiday activities might be much better than your neighbor's, but you still might have the feeling that he owns and you just rented the country house. The intellect is looking for an explanation of why I feel inferior, and it might come to the answer that if I had such a house, I would feel better. But that is not necessarily the right answer. Emotions do not function this way. There is no guarantee that after you work hard, save money, and buy property, you won't feel the feeling of inferiority again. This emotion might come up because you don't have a helicopter and someone else does. If you want to overcome that emotion, you should be using tools that are designed for eliminating negative emotions. Money is not a tool to neutralize emotions. Money can camouflage and weaken negative emotions. While we have money, we kind of put aside emotions in the deepest corner of ourselves and try to forget them by playing with money, buying stuff, and entertaining ourselves. But as soon as the money is gone, emotions will rise up and will remind you that you haven't sorted something out properly. Our wishes always put pressure on us. If you change the inner need to have your own stuff, then you can live as comfortably as you want. Money is not always needed to increase the quality of life. If these families that I mentioned before would agree to use communal property, they would increase the quality of their lives by several times. But our communication is poor. We somehow manage to start fighting each other, and we come to the conclusion that it is better to have our own stuff because we don't want to experience negative emotions again. That is because we don't sort out our deeper emotional issues, and of course, sometimes they arise. So if we want to live rich lives, we can do it 10 times more easily, but first of all, we have to sort out our emotional issues. We don't have to work a lot and each buy a separate personal watercraft. We can share it. But sharing a personal watercraft is not so cool, but that is just an emotional reaction. All our worldview is colored by some emotions. Some days I look in the mirror and I look good to myself. Some days I don't look as good. But I am the same person. Only my opinion is colored by the emotion I feel at that moment. So the same applies for owning stuff. You might not feel so cool riding a shared personal watercraft, but that is just emotional coloring that can be changed if you improve your emotional intelligence. If we want to increase the quality of our emotional life, we can go 2 ways. To buy more stuff and to get emotional satisfaction, not because of the stuff, but because of our emotional coloring, or to educate ourselves to mature emotional intelligence and learn how to effectively cope with negative emotions. Another thing that affects our purchases is the desire to interact with the highest status people and to use the best results of other people's work. Good and bad products don't exist. They don't appear out of nowhere. Products are results of either good or bad work. Things are made by people, and into these things some people put in more effort, time, and energy, and into others less. When looking from a distance, you will not see a big difference in the functionality of these products. The cheapest jeans and designer ones serve the same purpose on your body. The difference is that the designer jeans have a reputation that the cheap ones don't. We often make a mistake by thinking that the item itself has a reputation. Can a simple rock have a reputation? No. Reputation is created by associating that thing with a person. So when you are fascinated by a brand, you should be fascinated by the people who created it with their hard work, patience, and creativity. In this day and age, we do not see the people behind the stuff, so it is easy to create a bunch of fetishes related to the products. A fetish is a phenomenon when an object seems like it possesses some properties when in fact it does not. Reputation in things is built because of the people associated with them. So when you buy designer jeans, you're not buying jeans, you are buying the reputation of the designer. If he's famous, liked, and fashionable, you will pay 3 to 5 times more for his jeans than for a simple pair. Yes, your intellect will try to justify this by telling you the material is better, the zipper is of a higher quality, or it has a cooler pocket on the side. But essentially, you just bought reputation, which intellect cannot understand since reputation is linked with emotions, and intellect cannot feel them. Reputation is felt by our emotional side. The link that a product has with famous, talented people brings out our admiration, respect, empathy, and other good emotions. Intellect cannot logically evaluate this admiration, so the poor thing does what it's used to doing, analyzes and calculates. Thinking that this material is twice as good and will not wear out 3 times as long, and within 5 years will be worth the money paid for it today, after all these calculations, it can conclude that it is a good idea to buy these expensive jeans. If your intellect understood your emotions, it would never justify paying 5 times as much for a pair of jeans whose functionality are no better than the simple pair. The desire that arises to buy expensive jeans doesn't come from the intellect and the many justifications it has come up with, but from when you saw those jeans, you felt something and you wanted that feeling to continue, so you took those jeans home. Also, keep in mind that living within society, we like to evaluate and judge each other, and especially we like to receive positive feedback about ourselves. That is one of the conditions of our social nature. That's what draws us to things, and some sort of reputation attached to them. When we want to make an educated purchase, we don't go to the product description. We are far more likely to go to the opinions and reviews of other people. In this chapter, I want to share with you some insights about our growing world. We create lots of new stuff and discover lots of new things. Every generation lives better than the previous one. When people did not have their own vehicles, they used public transport. They were happy to use public transport because there were no other possibilities. When the possibilities arose, our minds began to think of how to use them. If someone offers tourist flights to space, there must be the possibility to get in that vehicle. Think about all the possibilities humankind has now. We want so much of everything, not because we need so much, but because we have the possibility to enjoy something. If we didn't have a washing machine, we would be happy to wash by hand. That is it. The amount of possibilities is growing. Those possibilities can create inner friction because we could have so much, but we have so little. The bigger the gap, the bigger the inner friction that finally results in anxiety. Start thinking what you really want and what you really need, and remember that a few hundred years ago, people didn't have 90% of the stuff we have today. One's life could be very different depending on the number of possibilities afforded them. I will feel quite satisfied with my life if there are not many possibilities around me, and the ones that are, I take. However, if there are an abundance of possibilities around me and I take just a few of them, my life can seem very unfortunate. Our desires are connected to possibilities. If there are no possibilities to realize, we do not think about them. If a possibility arises, then the wish shows up too. Also, our choices are influenced by available possibilities. If I can choose from 5, I choose the best and I am happy. But if I find out later that there were 10 possibilities, and I didn't pick the best one, I feel disappointed. So my estimation changes depending on the possibilities I know about. The same choice might look like the best one or the worst one, depending on how many possibilities are available to me. If there are a few suppliers of something, we are satisfied choosing one or another. But if 10 or more suppliers show up, it might occur that something that we considered to be a good deal was good only for the supplier. The Internet and increasing communication helps people see more possibilities, and that creates more competition. Also, don't forget that despite analyzing all the possibilities that are available to you, you can create your own possibilities. Say you are looking for a last-minute holiday offer. You are browsing the Internet and comparing the offers, but you can always create something very customized and non-traditional. Sometimes we lack creativity in how to satisfy our needs. 80% of families that I know go to the sea and lie on a beach during every holiday. That looks boring, but we are lazy to spend time creating new plans for holidays. We go to the beach because we can think of nothing better. So we work hard and dream about how life will change for the better and how we will experience adventures someday. But adventures don't arrive, so we go to a movie to see some adventures and pay money for it. We are looking for entertainment because we don't know how to create it. So we pay for it, and we pay a lot. We even start to think, if I don't have money, my life will be boring. Nope. Your life will be boring if you aren't creative and don't put in effort. Greece has a lot of islands in the sea, but the isles belong to the state by law. Everybody knows the law and does not wish to own an island. However, the state could change the law and the possibility would show up to get one of those islands. If we know that something is not available for us, no matter how hard we try, we don't think about that and don't desire that. But if we know that there are many possibilities available, we already understand that it is only our inner inabilities and lack of something if we don't take advantage of them. This is the moment where anxiety or disappointment might occur. We are trying to repress our wishes. We say to ourselves, if I really wanted it, I would get it. But I don't want it badly, so I can make do without it. We try to convince ourselves that we don't need something, but repressing those wishes also requires energy. We think about what we don't have. We focus on our too small salary, on our neighbors who have this and that. Thinking about all that is just time wasting while you just think and don't make decisions. If you don't make decisions, you won't move forward. So all new possibilities and desires can create inner friction. Say I am walking along the main street with my girlfriend, and a woman approaches who sells flowers. She offers to sell flowers for my lovely girlfriend. Of course, I show strong boundaries and say, no thank you, because inside I am thinking, I don't need extra expense. But later I start thinking, might it be that I was wrong? Not every day do such opportunities arise. The lady seemed to be nice, and I don't buy flowers very often. So inner friction begins, and we waste some time thinking. If there was no opportunity, no friction would have occurred. So think for a while about the amount of advertising messages you get every day. Think about new stuff that you see and hear others talking about. Our daily life is overloaded with various businesses who want to reach into our wallets. If I think about stuff and don't buy it, that might create lots of useless friction. And even more, when I think about stuff, I don't have time to think about more important things in life. My mind has to work day and night to satisfy my endless desires and needs. My mind has to make money in order to buy stuff that is available. Those wishes often camouflage our true needs, which we don't understand because we have no time to investigate them. So in general, we overwork and overspend and still don't have our true needs met fully. All possibilities we take for granted. We don't ask ourselves, do we need them? Living without thinking is living on autopilot. I don't need new stuff because the old works fine, but I buy new things because it is just the way we live. Our standard of living and outlook are highly shaped by stuff. Freedom to buy dreams. I aimed to change your priorities. You should spend money for your dreams, not for stuff that you don't need or that everybody else is buying. We overvalue stuff and spend too much time in order to have something, but having doesn't provide those emotions that we expect. We have hundreds of wrong beliefs related to buying, and it is not surprising that we lack happiness. It is simply not possible to be happy while having wrong beliefs. Wrong beliefs work destructively, and if I haven't succeeded in changing those beliefs yet, it is because beliefs are rooted in emotions. I can influence your emotions a bit through intellect, but I cannot change them completely. That requires completely different techniques. Life's purposes and tasks have to drag you out of bed every morning and not forcibly going to work and forcibly consuming what you maybe do not even want to consume. We mature with challenges, and that brings joy. This is so because in order to do something new that you have never done before, you need to change yourself, adjust, and create a better you. People often say that money provides freedom. I want to specify that they have in mind a feeling of strength when all barriers look low, and a feeling that anything can be bought. There are none of the previous barriers. It is freedom to buy anything, but not inner freedom. A freedom to have stuff, but not a freedom to feel free inside. Free of negative emotions and thoughts, free of bad habits and bad relationships, free to do whatever you want, free to act however you want. We often mix up outer and inner freedoms. Money gives the outer freedom to have, use stuff and other people's resources. Stuff makes your life more convenient. You can perform something more easily, so you save time and energy. You are free of doing hard tasks because now your stuff does it for you. For example, a washing machine washes for you, so you are free of washing clothes. But we mix outer and inner freedoms, and that is how wrong belief is born. We start to think that the more stuff we have, the more freedom we will feel, and partly it is true. You will be free of many boring or difficult jobs. For example, you have a new car, it breaks down less, so you save yourself lots of time and energy. You have more comfort and are free of discomfort. You have a cell phone with wireless internet, so you are free of searching for wireless internet spots. You have freedom to check your email whenever you want. That feeling of freedom comes from outside, and this outer freedom is always tied to stuff. As soon as you forget your cell phone, you won't have the freedom to check your email whenever you want. Inner freedom is generated from inside. Inner freedom requires putting in effort, finding the right knowledge, and spending time studying to know yourself better. If you have a fear of mice, then stuff or money will not help to eliminate this fear. You will remain controlled by a fear, and there is no freedom in that. If you smoke, then even if you have more money, it will not grant you freedom not to smoke. If you do not feel free communicating with other people, then even if you have money, you will not feel this freedom. If you have habits that you want to change or to develop new ones, stuff won't help. You have to develop will and discipline. I have seen people buying various types of exercise equipment, expecting that they will start working out. But after a few weeks, most of them give up. They are not free of their old habits, and they cannot change them. Buying exercise equipment provides the freedom to work out whenever you want. You don't have to go to the gym anymore, so you have outer freedom. But if you don't develop inner freedom, your stuff becomes useless. You can buy a vacation home, but if you don't have inner freedom to take more time off, it will stay vacant. So stuff gives us some freedom, but full freedom is experienced only when we develop inner freedom. Without it, stuff is simply useless. Why does the material look more real to us? This is so because it is encoded in our DNA that physical strength and stuff is important. The ability to hunt, to build a house, to farm. People's needs were very real, down to earth, tied to food and touchable things. Not that long ago, people spent more than 90% of their time growing food. Only during the last century have our lives changed so much that we started to satisfy emotional and other needs because all of us already have basic needs met. Many major things have changed, but changes in our minds are late. people have not understood the inner body's rules yet. Because of inertia, we apply the same rules to our inner body as we apply to stuff. But the same rules do not work here. Today, more than ever, we can have fun, party, spend time for intellectual activities, but in our minds and understanding, a certain power of inertia remains, and we give priorities to material and touchable things. You could spend money to travel around the world or to buy a new car. We choose the new car. We don't want to pay attention to the fact that it will lose 20% of its value every year. To buy a new car requires much less effort than to plan a journey around the world. Also, we don't feel free to turn off autopilot and leave our daily routine for half a year or more. That is why we put this wish on our list of goals and leave it for better days. So this is what I'm trying to change. I want to show you that most goals can be reached with prioritizing money differently. You have to understand how you spend your money today and to start changing those habits in a way that helps you reach yours and not other people's goals. Every time you spend money on something that you actually don't really need, you help other people to reach their goals. Your spending habits are the key to your dreams. If you don't move closer to your dreams, it is probably not because you lack money. It is because you don't handle your money in life as well as you could. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts and insights. Spending money wisely is a huge topic, and it has never been as important as it is today. I will continue this topic, and it is going to be updated. At least 3 CDs are going to follow this audio program. In the following CDs, I'm going to consider human transactions more closely, how we communicate with each other, and how it affects buying. I will tell you about the evolution of ego and status, how our ego state is related to buying, and what sort of needs our ego stimulates, how we create meaning around us with stuff, how we reflect our inner body outside with the help of stuff. That helps to establish a healthy and ecological attitude towards consuming. I will speak a lot about saving. Saving can be harmful for your consciousness. If we concentrate only on saving, we concentrate on scarcity and cannot accomplish abundance. It is very complicated to run 2 completely different programs inside the mind. Some eye-opening insights about buying luxury stuff and many other very fresh ideas. Don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter and find me on Facebook. Take care and spend money wisely.